Knights Templar were founded in 1119 to protect the pilgrim routes to the Holy Lands. Hugh de Payen and 7 knights founded the Knights Templar. It was after the First Crusade was over, so Jerusalem had already fallen. So they were stepping into a situation where the Holy Lands were already under Crusader control. He received the backing of St. Bernard of Clairvaux, who was the most prominent churchman of his day. Having him on your side meant you were going to be successful. So they were nominally Cistercian monks. So what some people consider is to be the greatest fighting force in the history of the world were actually just Cistercian monks. They were key figures in the Crusades. They were the shock troops of all of the Crusades after the first one, which they did participate in. And over 20,000 Knights Templar were killed in the Crusade. Now, when you look at the later charges that were brought against them, that they had become Muslims, that they were traitors, et cetera, this is outrageous. You don't lose 20,000 people. That's killed. That's not, casualties. That's killed. You don't lose 20,000 people fighting for a cause and then claim that you weren't really for the cause. That was an editorial. The Templars answered only to the Pope. This is one of the reasons they became so powerful so quickly, and it also helped lead to their downfall, because when Philip the Weasel in France brought the charges against him, the Pope was living in Avignon at the time, so the French Philip the Weasel ostensibly had control over the Pope at that time. The Templars established local offices throughout Western Christendom called temples. They owned 9,000 castles and manors throughout Europe. So they became very rich, very influential. And as a result of all those factors, essentially they started the first European banking system.
And what time frame was that?
Well, this would have been between 1118 and the 1300.
Okay, so over 250 years.
In 1300, King Philip the Weasel of France owed the French temple quite a bit of money. So he thought, well, let's see, I can pay them the money I owe them and bankrupt my treasury, or I'll accuse them of heresy and treason, and since the Pope does what I want because the Pope's living in Avignon, then he will take care of them, and that is exactly what happened. 1307, Philip the Weasel charged the order with heresy. The charges included that postulants were required to deny Christ and spit on the cross, that the Templars worshipped a mysterious head named Baphomet, and also the charge that they had become Muslims. These charges were never proved except confessions received under torture at the hands of the Inquisition. They were most likely very spurious charges.
And it was all to get out of debt.
All to get out of debt.
I wonder what people are doing now.
And to destroy their power. 1312, the Council of Vienna officially dissolved the order, gave most of their property to the Hospitaliers that we're going to talk about in a moment. Philip the Weasel's debts were forgiven him. 1314, the last Grand Master, Jacques de Molay. First Grand Master was Hugh de Payen. The last Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, is burned alive after recanting of an earlier confession. And this, of course, anybody know what date of the month this occurred on? Friday the 13th. That's where the superstition about Friday the 13th.
They burned him on Friday the 13th?
Oh, that's when that
what they-
started? Friday the 13th?
And De Molay is still an organization that runs today.
The Masons.
Kind of junior Masons,
Right.
Right.
school children.
Exactly.
After the Templars were dissolved, the French crown, Philip the Weasel, received cancellation of all his debts. He also seized some of the property. So, I said I was going to talk about the legends, so now I will talk about the legends. But keep in mind, these are all legends. There are a number of areas about the Templars of which legends have grown up. I'm going to look at 3 or 4 of them. It all starts with where they established their clubhouse when they were founded in 1118 by Hugh de Payen. They formed a boys' club in Jerusalem. The boys' club was on the Temple Mount, and it was believed that where their headquarters was the stables of Solomon's great temple. So note, we refer to Solomon's temple as the first temple. The second temple is the one built by Ezra and Nehemiah, and later enlarged by Herod. Thank you, Herod the Great. So the Templars claimed to have found the stables of Solomon's original temple underground. They dug underground to find this temple. And this is why eventually they became known as the Knights Templar, or the Knights of St. John of the Holy Temple. So because they were meeting in the actual first temple, they had dug underground to find it, there were always questions about, well, why would they do that? If they were just a small police force to help pilgrims go from the coast to the holy city, well, why would you dig underground? Why would you even try to find Solomon's temple underground? And how did a group of 8 guys who started in 1118, within 100 years, have 9,000 castles and manors throughout Europe, and have the power and influence to A, be the greatest military force at the time, B, to start the banking system, C, to have most of the rulers of Europe in debt to them because of the money they lent them? So how did all this happen? Well, one way it happened is the way we just described, which is good old capitalism, and they came up with this clever idea of starting a banking system. And yes, there was a small service fee attached to when they issued you a check. So if you were at the Paris Temple and you deposited 100 gold pieces, they would write you a check or a piece of paper. You could take that to London, to the London Temple, and they would give you 100 gold pieces. But they did charge a small handling and service fee for this. So there are legitimate reasons how the Templars became very rich, but people did scratch their head and wonder, well, Solomon, according to the Bible, was one of the richest men in the world. He had this vast treasure. So Templars dug down into Solomon's temple. So does that mean that the Templars found something when they dug into the Temple Mount? And that has variously been described as a vast, unimaginable treasure. Some people claim they found the Ark of the Covenant itself, which of course disappears from the Bible right around the time that the temple was consecrated. Some people claim they were written documents that they found, but maybe they didn't find anything. There is no absolute evidence one way or the other. Another popular view is that they found what would be the holiest relic in Christianity. The Ark of the Covenant would be the holiest relic in Judaism. But another view was that they found the cup from the Last Supper, the cup of the Holy Grail. So there are various theories about what they might have dug up there. And as various events happened after that, these legends would pop up again.